the college football landscape has been changing significantly with the NIL. We've had college coaches on who've been talking about the NIL ever since the beginning, where it was just, hey, let's do a brand deal with local limousine company or a local hotel and get your family, put up there while they come in for games, or get you to game day in a limousine, a la, Coach Caraway who came in. But now we're talking big money for these guys, and we've got Nico Iamaleava, who has just left Tennessee. He's at UCLA now, correct?
Not by choice.
Yep.
He was removed.
uh,
They wouldn't give him enough money.
Yeah.
he was
No.
asking for, I think the request was what, for $4 million to stay. He decided to hold out, and
Wild.
Josh Heupel said, "Yeah, no shot." I guess his dad is basically being his agent, and some fit. I think what kicked off. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. The kickoff to this whole thing was the thought that Carson Beck, after his transfer down to Miami, was that he was also getting $4 million. So Nico thought, or Nico's dad thought, that he was worth that amount.
So yeah, I guess I definitely heard news of the Beck deal being kind of a, a hedge in that relationship. Uh, but what I'm hearing from both UCLA journalists and from Tennessee journalists is reportedly Iamaleava didn't ask for $4 million from UCLA. So he actually went to UCLA allegedly on a cheaper deal. And I'm wondering if that's because it is closer to home. He's a Cali kid. So maybe it's just because he's closer to home. But you have to wonder if this is just Nico and his dad testing out the market, or if this is, he just wants to go home and Tennessee just wasn't the place for him because from what I'm hearing from from what I'm hearing from insiders, there was a lot of animosity between Tennessee camp and the in Nico's camp. So there's potential for that. Maybe money had more to do with it than we think, but um, honestly, who knows? Because
Yeah.
that's just go ahead, Donnie.
Alex is a UCLA fan. I'm going to tell you right now, we don't pay anybody. So, I mean, he definitely knew go like choosing UCLA, like he knew he wasn't going to get the same amount of money he was. I think after what had happened at Tennessee and being removed, I think he probably accepted that. I would at least like I probably wouldn't put myself in this position, but I mean, yeah, close to home. He's a Warren High kid from Downey, so I don't know if that's still a rough area. It was. But yeah, it's hard to tell. But I mean, now
Yeah.
as a UCLA fan, again, it was all fun and games, and now it's not anymore because we're at the bottom of the Big Ten. So
Now,
Yeah.
is Nico eligible to go to the draft next year, or is he just going to do this all again next year as well too?
he should be eligible after this year.
Yeah, he's eligible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me how quickly college players now like have more leverage than NFL players because
Mhm.
Blackburn said it, testing the market as a college athlete. Like there's a market set where other players are getting paid a certain amount, and now I can leverage my skill and my tape and test out the market. Like that is how quickly we've gotten to this point with the NIL stuff. Like is wild to me.
Well, I think
Yeah,
coaches are starting to put their foot down too because the wide receiver from Syracuse just got booted. Alex, did you hear about that?
I did hear about that. Yeah, and you have to wonder what coaches are going to do, what the NCAA is going to do, and what conferences are going to do in order to regulate this if they're not taking too kindly to it, which by all it doesn't look like they're taking too kindly to it being a player dominated atmosphere. So you have to wonder what steps the NCAA and the conferences will take in the next few years to make sure you don't have these one and done guys, make sure, money is not the prime and only recruiting tool because that's too much like the NFL. And you have to wonder with all this talk from the NCAA, from guys like Brett Yormark and the other conference heads, where they're going to go from here because it doesn't sound like they really have a set plan as of yet, like a set 5-year plan to mitigate this Wild West as we call it. So
I've heard
Alex,
some really
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've heard some really interesting thought processes behind kind of where the NIL is going. Even before Nico's situation, I think it gets expounded on even a little bit more of kind of what are some things that the NCAA or maybe even the conferences get together and create their own head. Maybe the NCAA gets phased out from here. Is I've heard that there's potentially or talks of a cap going in place, maybe $20 million for programs, at least at the football level, and then that leaves some NIL for remaining programs or athletic programs. But the other thing that kind of goes along with that is there's been some thoughts about going straight to contracts for players. If you go to a school, it's based on whatever that salary is that they discuss with you via the NIL and your own deal, but you're tied in for 2 years regardless. And then now you're a free agent at the end of 2 years. Everything works around. Everybody knows that you're going, and that opens up like a period, maybe towards the end of that contract where you get to discuss either coming back or going somewhere else.
yeah,
Another theory that I've heard going around. Sorry about that. Another theory that I've heard going around was they want to do that, but they will have the freshmen coming in. They get paid a certain amount. The longer you stay there, the more you can get paid. But if you do
Ooh,
transfer, you get bumped back down to the freshman pay salary
ooh.
again.
yeah, and I think the major thing is you're gonna have to get a lot of people to agree on a set method, and that's kind of the thing that the major hindrance that goes into all of this is you're going to have to get the SEC to agree on this. You're going to have to get the Big Ten, et cetera, et cetera. Otherwise, you're going to have holdouts and you're going to have all sorts of issues where it comes to maybe the SEC and Big Ten splits off. Obviously, revenue sharing was a thing I was talked about. And overall, there's lots of ideas being thrown around, but it's only going to get worse from here until something is figured out. And right now, there's really nothing set in stone as to what direction they're wanting to go and what direction's been agreed upon. So,
The main
So
question I would propose from there is like NIL initially was created for you to get your own sponsorship deals. It's very, very quickly turned into how can the schools or their boosters pay the players? Would any of these changes with doing a cap or the contractual basis or anything that Sean was talking about with where their roles are, would that affect the amount of money a player could get for a sponsorship deal, a la Spencer Rattler and his $4 million deal or whatever it was, or it was $1 million deal from Raising Cane's when he was at Oklahoma. Does that change that sort of landscape as well?
so potentially, yeah, I think overall with NIL, it's going to be ever evolving just as this revenue sharing thing is just as this um players market versus having a market that's more friendly towards coaches, teams, and conferences. I think it's going to evolve the exact same way. Uh, but I know that there's certain laws that I think US Congress was involved in that allowed for players to negotiate their own NIL deals. And you have to wonder, are they just going to rescind that? Are they going to amend that in one way or another? because if they just outright rescind it, I think you open up a completely different can of worms. So there's going to have to be some major amendments, I think, made before we have some clear-cut solution that isn't going to, I guess, upset the balance of power. So
I just
because
think like
right now
we've
we have the upset of a balance of power here. So
Yeah, I just feel like because Tyler, you even said like sponsorship. Like I feel like initially that's not even what NIL was for, right? I mean, I
mhm.
feel like we've just gotten so far off from where this initial idea was of like, hey, we don't want kids living in poverty. We want them to have to be able to afford 3 square meals a day, to afford to live in a nice place, paid for by the athletic department openly. And if they want to sign autographs for $50 a pop at the Barnes and Noble down the road on a Sunday, like they can do that. And the NCAA is not going to come a knocking, right?
How
I
many
feel
people are
like
signing
that's,
autographs at the Barnes and Noble besides authors, man?
I mean, that's but like it's just an example, but you get what I'm saying though, right? Like Johnny Manziel type shit, right? Like I think this is where we initially thought this was going to help, but somewhere along the line, name, image, and likeness turned into some booster with $3 million says we need a quarterback and I'm willing to pay for it. And now you have kids bouncing all over the place and stuff like that. I
I
think,
mean, see that was part of my misconception is like
yeah,
like how does with the way I thought it was set up, like with the Ty Bob referenced Spencer Rattler's deal with Raising Cane's going to Oklahoma. Like how does Josh Heupel say no to a kid getting some sort of deal that gets him paid X amount of money? Like I
and
like
that's
how is
good, and
he
that's what
asking?
it's for. That's exactly what it's for. But it's not for signing a contract with the booster athletic department, whoever the hell rev share. Like what does Colorado do? They have like a pool or something that all the money comes from or something like that. Like
Yeah, it's a war chest essentially. Yeah.
but a question for you is like how like Alex is like how obsolete did the NCAA make itself when they allowed this to happen and get to this point, right? Like how obsolete has the NCAA made itself?
I think they bit off more than they could chew, and they kind of went into NIL saying, "Oh, we have good intent. We want these guys to, make money off of their name, image, and likeness, but we have no idea how to regulate that, and we're just going to make it up as we go." And that's where the NCAA is at right now, is they've opened up this gate and have just let a tidal wave come through of players basically being self-determined, when they're really student athletes and should be staying at these schools. Obviously, there's levels to that conversation, but
Oh
I
yeah.
think the NCAA certainly bit off way more than they could chew, and they damned themselves,
And
by not having the regulations in place. So
it's completely screwed everything over with the transfer portal as well, too, because this kids cannot transfer at a certain date. They have to be enrolled in the school by a certain time. You saw players that were in the college football championship playoffs at least trying to transfer before their teams even played. There's guys in the NCAA tournament saying we're going to transfer before they even were eliminated from the tournament. Like that's screwing everything up right there. What if they're doing it 10 days before that? How can they not get enrolled 10 days later?
yeah, it's something that really should have been thought about for sure. And the fact that you do have that, and there's no penalty for a kid saying, "Oh, hey, I want out. Like I'm gonna sit out. I'm gonna hold out," because there isn't a penalty. There's no, unlike the NFL, there's no penalty for just saying, "Hey, I don't want to play for you anymore. I intend to enter the transfer portal." And I mean, the penalty is obviously like not playing and getting film and everything, but you don't have like a monetary fine attached to that. You don't have a, hey, you're suspended for the first 6 games of next season for that,
Unless you transfer
unlike the
within conference,
NFL.
right? Is
Yes, yeah,
that rule still
unless
applies? The
yes.
365 rule in conference? Well, that's good to
Hmm.
know.
Do we
That
know?
still applies.
Did players get any sort of share from the college football game that came out last year?
Yes, if you were in
Yes,
it, I think you got like a free copy and a couple $100 or something like that, right, Alex?
which now they're
Something
bumping
similar.
up
Yeah.
with a new thing. I think they're looking at giving like a couple $1,000,
Yeah.
something like
Sick.
that.
Hmm.
That's the
And like
positive side of this stuff, Like
Yes.
I was gonna say
that's
the other
great.
positive
Oh
side,
yeah.
like kids are staying in school longer. We're developing athletes, they're
Hmm.
not leaving right after 3 years. They're staying 4 or 5. COVID's kind of helped that too, I guess, a little bit. But like these kids are staying in school longer and they're developing, and I think it's creating a bit of a better product for the NFL too. These kids aren't, you know, deeply underdeveloped and not even close to ready for the NFL, right? So there's
Yeah.
good and bad, I think, that goes along with this, and that's a great point you bring up, Tybo.
Yeah. And
Tommy,
you look
uh,
at college basketball as well, and like them competing with the G League, they have the ability to do that now by getting
Mhm.
paid, by having that there. You don't just go one and done and go to or just go straight to the G League. Now you actually have the ability to get some film while getting paid in college basketball. So,
Hey, fuck Hunter Dickinson.
and he overstayed his welcome. Let's just say
Long
Tom,
that.
overstayed.